Welcome to Lit Vibes Only, where we lit the shit out of books we love and hate. I'm Kelsey, the unhinged, diehard romantic and fantasy reader.
And I'm Amanda, the insightful thrill seeker and historical fiction nerd. Welcome back.
Hey.
Hey. We're so excited you're here on another gorgeous Monday. Well, actually, I don't know what the weather is today, wherever you are, but
it's gorgeous over here on a Sunday.
Yes. And granted, it is still August and summertime, fully summertime here in Seattle. So it's a gorgeous day. But welcome. We're so glad you're here. As always, if you have not taken a moment to follow us on socials, take a moment to do that. We are on.
What the heck have you been doing?
What have you been doing with your lives? We're on Instagram at litvibesonly_podcast. And we're also on YouTube and TikTok at Lit Vibes Only Podcast. So like, follow, comment, subscribe, all of the things if you're not currently doing them. And if you like to watch your podcasts versus listening to them, you can watch the full-length video episodes on our YouTube channel. So lots of good ways to connect with us, to get extra content beyond what we do here on the podcast. Lots of fun, bookish content. See our beautiful faces. And if social media is not your jam, you can also reach out to us via email at litvibesonlypodcast@gmail.com. And actually, they just reminded me, Kelsey and we got I don't know how to say it, like an ARC offer, like an advanced reader copy offer from like a legit publisher, like a legit book. That's
Which coming out cool.
in September. So that's really exciting. Hopefully it all works out. I sent them our info to get physical copies of the book. But if that happens, we'll definitely be putting out some content for that. So for sure you want to follow us on socials.
What was this one about?
It is about a woman in her 30s who's just like doing life. And I believe her, I want to say us. It's like her, is it the women in her life or her ancestors or something who are like basically helping her like get herself sorted? I don't want to say too much. One, because I don't know if we're actually going to get the book. And two, because I didn't read through it that thoroughly. When I got the email, I was just like, oh my God. They compared her to Elizabeth Acevedo, who I love. She's the author of The Poet X and Clap When You Land. Both books, which I've mentioned on this podcast. Yeah. So I was like, if she is like Elizabeth Acevedo, I'm going to love this book.
Great. Cool.
So we'll keep you posted.
There was another one in our, not DMs, but our email. Gmail. And I said, death. What did I tell you?
Betsy has
Beth
has killed someone.
Dead. Beth is dead. And it's based on Little Women, but instead of Beth living, she dies at the beginning. And then it's like this murder mystery thing. And I felt like you would like it.
I would like it. Love Little Women, love murder mysteries. Like,
yeah, I was like historical fiction. Like, yes, this is Amanda's jam.
That is my jam. I must have missed that email because I definitely didn't see it. When was it sent?
Before the one that you told me about.
Okay.
So it's just down the way a little bit.
Okay.
I went in and deleted a bunch of emails because it was really bothering me.
Did you respond to this Beth is dead
I didn't, because that's totally all you. I have no interest in that book.
All right. I'll put it on my to-do list because I want to read this book. It sounds fascinating. But speaking of books, what are you currently reading?
Oh my God. The only thing I've had time for is Gideon the Ninth.
Oh, how pleasant.
Okay. So yesterday I almost messaged you, but I had still 8 hours of listening to do when I woke up yesterday morning.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I was going to ask if you listened to it or read it because
I bought it and I started reading it and I was like, what the fuck? There's no way I'm getting through this book without listening to it. Yes.
I feel like that would be so hard because there's so many characters and houses to keep track of. Like, I don't know how you would have done that just listening. Like, I would have been so confused.
We'll talk about it more.
Yes, we will. Okay. Well, I am actually also listening to an audiobook. I'm like taking my sweet time through this one, but it is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune, which is the sequel to The House in the Cerulean Sea. And Kelsey listened to the audiobook for both and told me that they were quite delightful and that the narrator does all the different voices for the characters and the children. And it is just that. It is delightful. I am thoroughly enjoying it. And the kids are hilarious. Like, I love the children. I want to go to Marcius Island and just hang out with them for like a week. But that's been amazing. And obviously, as I'm listening to an audiobook, I'm also reading as well, like a physical book. And I just finished Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma. I think it's Emma Wong. And oh my God. Oh my God. Like like chef's kiss, 5 stars. And also it's a standalone fantasy book, which is a rarity. I think you would like it because the book is brimming, like absolutely brimming with political and social commentary.
Oh, okay.
In a way that is really insightful and unique and compelling, but also has very clear ties to our world and what's happening and what has happened.
Ooh.
And she's just really smart about it. It touches on colonization and sexism, like just all of these things, but in a way that doesn't feel trite or cliched or like too on the nose. It's great. I don't know. I'm going to be recommending. This is one of those books I'm going to like continually be recommending. Fun. We might have to do it for the podcast. I will for sure be recommending it for my book club because there's just so much there to dive into and discuss.
Cool.
So yeah, that's what I'm intrigued
into. I think I have it on my TBR, but I just haven't like known when to read it or if I would like it.
Yeah, granted, it's a heavy book, so it's definitely one of those books. It's not a TJ Klune, which is like, oh, this is so lovely and heartwarming. It is not a cozy read, but it really makes you think. That's all I'll say. That is all I'll say because I don't want to like get into a whole thing.
Fun,
but
I don't even know what I'm going to read next. I'm going to have to figure that out.
You're going to have to do something fun and light after Gideon the Ninth, I feel. Something just feel good and like easy to breeze through. I'm going to be reading a book for me, I guess. For next month, which is my first Emily Henry novel. So
do you think you'll like aspects of this book for sure? I don't know that it'll be like a lit overall for you, but I think you'll like aspects of the book.
All right. Well, we shall see. And I guess we'll have to tune in for that episode.
There's like a slight mystery and there's like historical fiction in there. Yes. It crosses.
Okay.
Genres.
Touches on a bunch of different genres. Well, we have a fabulous book to dive into today. One that Kelsey was like overjoyed to read. She kept on saying, Amanda, when am I going to read this? Like, when are you going to have me read this? I can't wait to read it. I'm so excited.
Those were my exact words, Amanda. It was more like, I don't want to read that. Look at the cover. I
think the cover is great. I still don't understand why you don't like it. I
hate the cover.
Before we get into this, because this was your number one complaint before reading the book, what is it specifically about the cover that you don't like?
It just looks awful.
Okay, give me some criteria.
It's
what makes it ugly? Because
like,
it's black.
Why do they have face paint on? And like, what? Like, what is that about? I just noticed the sunglasses. I know it comes up in the book, but like, I just noticed that oh my God, this was it. I thought it was a skeleton this whole time instead of sunglasses.
It kind of is. Like the rest of her face is.
She's not a real skeleton.
No.
But like, this is what I always thought. I don't
know if I knew they were sunglasses.
Yeah. Well, it mentions it in the book.
It's true.
Oh my God.
So for those of you who are not watching
like blood spewing everywhere, like it's gross looking.
It is a bit violent and dark, I suppose. But for those of you who are not watching on YouTube and can't see it, it's essentially the figure of a woman facing you head on, and she has kind of a skeleton mask that's been painted on her face. She's wearing all black, has a shock of red hair, and is apparently wearing black sunglasses. I think it's kind of slick and
has
cool.
Short and ginger hair.
Yeah, short red hair.
Book too.
But I personally feel like it is a accurate representation of the book. I think it's definitely one of those covers. It's like, it very much gives you a sense of what the book's going to be about and like the tone and vibe of the book. But anyhow,
tell us, Amanda, why did you have me read this book?
I had Kelsey read this book, one, because I thought it would be fun to, again, flip the script a little bit and have Kelsey read a fantasy book that I was recommending because fantasy tends to be Kelsey's wheelhouse. This book was recommended to me by a colleague of mine at my school who she loves this book. It is like one of her top reads. She recommends it to everyone. And even though I don't read a lot of fantasy and certainly didn't know a whole lot about necromancy, she sold it really well. And I did end up, in spite of my initial hesitations with this book, enjoying it. I would like to just preface all of this by saying this is not a like, I am obsessed with this book, 5 out of 5. Everyone
Yeah.
should read it like
I
that.
saw
I'm
your
not like,
Goodreads.
yeah, I'm not obsessed with this book by any means to that degree, but I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. And I thought that if I was going to have Kelsey read a fantasy, because it is kind of bizarre, it would make for a really fun episode. And I figured she would have a pretty interesting reaction to it that would lead to a really good conversation. So really those are my main reasons. And
Okay.
also kind of similar with Red Rising, like the fan base for Gideon the Ninth. Like if you love the Gideon the Ninth and like the Locked Tomb series, like you're super into it and you're super into Tamsin Muir. So yeah, those were my reasons.
Okay.
So Kelsey, I, I already know the answer,
I don't
but
think you do.
short answer, was this book a lit it or quit it for you?
I went back and forth on this one because it's
Oh,
like, yeah, I did. And so I was like, okay, trying to weigh the pros and cons of how much I liked and disliked this book. It's going to get a soft quit it.
oh, okay. I'll
Yeah.
take that. I thought for sure it was going to be like, hated this book with every fiber of my being. I will take
No,
that. All right.
it, yes,
That's actually,
I did.
I'm
It didn't
surprised.
deserve a soft lit it, but it didn't deserve a full on quit it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually quite ecstatic to hear that. And I was not expecting to hear that either, especially from the text I was getting from you. I was like, oh,
Yes.
she's gonna hate this.
I
And
don't
the
really give
TikTok
you
video
much,
you
but
made.
oh yeah, that was real
Oh,
though.
I know.
Oh my
I know.
God. Okay, can we get into it?
Yeah,
What
get
did
into
I have
it.
to
Get
start with
into the
the things that I
summary.
liked? Oh
Well,
yeah,
no,
that's
you gotta get
right.
into
I
the
need to do the
summary.
summary.
You're like, forget the
Here we
summary.
go, people. Buckle up because this is a long one.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'm just gonna get into it. I was like, I have so much commentary. It's been so hard to
Okay,
not say
just the
anything.
summary and then we'll get to the commentary.
Okay. All right. It starts with the prologue. Um, Introduces Gideon Nav in the ninth house. She's plotting yet another escape with her sword and porn magazines. Classic Gideon humor. Harrow, the other main character, catches her, stopping the attempt, and their long standing rivalry is established. The emperor summons heirs and cavaliers from each house to the first house. Harrow needs Gideon as her cavalier. So Gideon trains, their toxic relationship is on full display. Harrow bargains with Gideon. If Gideon serves as her cavalier, she'll grant her freedom afterwards. Gideon begrudgingly agrees. And they depart the first house with other house representatives. Now, the other thing that's important to know is Harrow is what's called a necromancer. And she essentially can create skeletons and control them. Okay. That is my understanding as what I've read so far, or what I read. They arrive at the first house. The first house is a vast, decaying palace filled with locked doors and strange relics, creepy and haunted atmosphere. All houses introduced. Key players include the loyal seconds, smug thirds, the tragic fifths, brilliant sixths, religious seventh, and deadly eighths. Emperor's servants announce the trial. Each heir must attempt to unlock the secrets of lictorhood. No clear rules given. Suspicion immediately spreads. Each necromancer and cavalier pair explores different sections of the house, encountering puzzles, locked laboratories, and bone-based experiments. Gideon and Harrow reluctantly cooperate. Gideon proves her combat skills. Harrow demonstrates necromantic brilliance. And first death occurs, panic arising. And the trials aren't just puzzles, something sinister is stalking them too. House pairs form uneasy alliances, but mistrust grows. Gideon bonds with some cavaliers, especially Dulcinea of the seventh. Harrow pushes Gideon's limits with exhausting tests. Their hostility starts shifting toward teamwork and more deaths. The true danger of the trials become evident. And it is not just the locked labs, but betrayal and murder among houses. Gideon investigates. Relationships across houses fracture. Third house and eighth house are especially hostile. Gideon and Harrow have breakthrough moments of trust, and Gideon realizes Harrow's brilliance hides loneliness and pressure as the ninth heir. Lictorhood requires necromancers and cavalier to merge with the cavalier's soul consumed. This raises the stakes dramatically. And I'll get to a couple other things after I go through this, but the final confrontations in part 6 is other houses attempt to kill Harrow and Gideon, leading to brutal duels and betrayals. And they discover the Emperor's cruel test is immortality demands ultimate sacrifice. And Gideon, realizing Harrow cannot survive without her, chooses self-sacrifice. And Gideon dies, offering herself so Harrow can live and ascend. And Harrow becomes a lictor in the end. In the epilogue, Harrow awakens as a lictor, traumatized by Gideon's death. The Emperor's grand plan continues, but Harrow carries Gideon inside her, literally and emotionally. And this sets up the sequel, Harrow the Ninth, with questions about memory, grief, and identity. So I guess the thing that I will say, this summary doesn't get into the intricacies of, let's say, for example, Dulcinea, like one of the main characters who Gideon really forms a bond and relationship with. And it turns out that, and I couldn't have gotten to all of these details, but this is just one that was interesting to me. Turns out that Dulcinea is a character who is deathly ill and basically on her deathbed. Like she's going to die imminently, right? Very soon. And it turns out someone switched her place on the ship coming to the first house. And it was someone who was already a lictor. And the real Dulcinea was hidden from people, but then Dulcinea's cavalier dies. And so, for some reason, which I don't understand, the person who is taking Dulcinea's place had to kill Dulcinea. So basically, she burned Dulcinea's body, like burned her to death. And yeah, it is wild. So that's just like one thing, but
yes. I also want to add and clarify a couple of things for folks.
Sure.
So one, ultimately, Harrow and Gideon, in spite of their rough beginnings, do end up falling in love with each other. So there is this lesbian romance at the center of the story, and it's kind of cool to see that arc. I would also say just a bit of clarity about this world. So these 9 houses, they all practice different forms of necromancy. And each heir to each house, again, is invited to the first house, Canaan house. It has this big decaying castle like Kelsey mentioned. And each heir has, the cavalier is like their knight. It's like their protector, their fighter for them.
Yes.
And also they can be siphoned. So an heir can basically suck the life force out of their cavalier in order to enhance their own powers, et cetera. And that factors in multiple times in the story. And that is actually a kind of important part of the plot as well. So like I wanted to clarify those things. And yeah, it's just like this kind of solar system of different houses / planets, right? Where people are coming from, just to give people a bit of context as to how this world works. And so they're all coming to compete because if you're a lictor, you ultimately get to serve the emperor, who is like this kind of, I don't even know, omniscient, omnipresent, godlike individual figure force that kind of rules this world. And it's a great honor to be a lictor and have that position. So that's why they're all kind of clamoring for it. So just wanted to clarify that a little bit for folks as well. But there are so many characters in this book and so many houses that it is very difficult to track. And I remember I had issues with that when I started reading this book.
Yes.
But thank you, Kelsey and ChatGPT, for helping us with that summary. Why don't we, as always, start with the positives? And I guess there must be some because this was a soft Reddit. So let's hear them.
It's so funny because sometimes I feel like I end up convincing myself, I'm like, actually, I really didn't like this book, or actually I did like this book through our conversations. But okay, so one of the things that I really did like was the humor in it.
Yes.
And it was totally dark humor. It was hilarious to me because they were just like really outlandish comments made throughout the book that were really funny and would just be like, oh my God, okay. And I have a few.
Yay. Love it.
So I think these are all Gideon's quotes. This one, no context. Whoops, my bad. For a moment, I thought you weren't a huge bitch. Talking to
Harrow.
And it's just like stupid comments as well. This is a Gideon quote for one of the moments that Harrow was sucking the life force out of her. Said, it would have been peaceful, only it sucked. And I'm just like, okay. Like it just pulls you out and is like, what the fuck? Yeah. I don't remember what this was about, but the line was colder than 10 witches' tits. What is that
Great,
even
that's so descriptive.
But like, why witches? Why are witches cold? Why are their tits cold?
I actually have heard phrases that involve being cold as a witch is whatever. Like I think that expression has been around for quite some time. Okay, so I think it's just like a spin on that. Yeah, I couldn't tell you why though.
Okay, I have one last one. And again, this is just Gideon talking to Harrow. Harrow rarely had like these kind of comments. It was mostly
it's mostly Gideon. Gideon's so irreverent and it's great.
If my heart had a dick, you would kick it.
I think that's my favorite out of all the ones you just said.
What? Like what?
I mean, it makes perfect sense. I get exactly what she's trying to communicate. Like, love her use of language.
I did have fun with those moments. So I have to think about what else I liked because there was a lot I didn't like. I don't know. I think it's not the world building necessarily, but it was one of my first, like, it was almost a dark romance where it's a really dark book. Right. And the themes throughout, it wasn't just about people dying or it being gruesome. The whole like air of the entire novel is dark.
Yeah.
And one of the things I didn't like was how descriptive of the dark it was. Like this is what made it so confusing was because it just like overly described things in the book that I just didn't think were necessary because maybe in the beginning it would have been good to have those descriptions, but it just continues and continues and continues.
You feel like the book is overly descriptive when it doesn't need to be.
Yeah. So this is description of the ninth house's gloom. The atrium was a dead cathedral of a dead religion, all black stone and bone dust, filled with the memory of prayers that had never been answered. Creepy church, right? Like that's all it was describing. Yeah, was a creepy church.
I think it's a great description.
But this happens every few sentences. Like it's too much, and I hated it. I hated it. And I think this is why people think it's so confusing because it's just always like round about everything. And even for the world building, you don't really understand. You don't get an understanding of the world because it doesn't tell you. It's like,
is it showing you versus telling you?
But there needs to be a good mixture of those things. And she very much leaned on only showing.
I see.
Ever. And that just really bothered me. And then I have one other example of how this happens. This description of a person. Let the king undying, ransomer of death, scourge of death, vindicator of death. Like, why do you have 4 of these descriptors of the same thing? Like, it's just that type of writing really annoys me. And also, I didn't highlight this. I just went to a random page and was like, yep, there it is. Like, that's just one example of the kind of writing that is in this book. It really, really bothered me.
It's interesting. My experience with this book is that I can see your point to a certain degree. I do remember when I read this book, which was a while ago, it took me a significant period of time to get into this book and enjoy it. I kind of liked Gideon from the start. I liked her tone, I liked her voice. I liked her humor. And like I said, her irreverence. And so I enjoyed being in her head from the start, but everything else, it took me a minute to get into. With that said, I do think that the atmosphere and the setting of this book is really important. And I think it's why Tamsin spends so much time, as you were saying, like on descriptions of what a place might look like, or perhaps a particular individual, even because I think she is trying to, I think that's her way of building her world, right? And authors can do
Yes.
that in a variety of ways. And so, like, this is her way of doing that.
Yeah.
And I felt like, for me personally, the feeling of gloom and decay and death was so visceral because of her descriptions that, even though I'm not a fan of any of those things, it made
Uh-huh.
sense for a book about necromancy. And I felt very much like inserted into that, I don't know, feeling, that space, that setting. So like I
Mm-hmm.
liked it. I can see it being a bit like, okay, you're beating us over the head with this. But
Yes.
I think as someone who personally can be a bit superfluous when I'm writing and perhaps overly descriptive, I didn't mind it, I think, as much as you did.
Yeah. And I think some people really love that,
Yeah,
but it definitely took me out of the story more than
sure,
like put me in. And
sure.
so that's just a different experience that we had with that. But I want to go back to things that I liked because those things are kind of like popping back into my
Oh,
head.
great. Lovely.
Um,
So happy to hear it.
was I did love the mystery of the whole
Mm-hmm.
like what are we uncovering and like why do
Mm-hmm.
we have to get these keys and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. I did enjoy that. And then I did enjoy the uncovering of the history of why
Mm-hmm.
Harrow exists and
Mm-hmm.
why Gideon exists. And
Mm-hmm.
so for those of you who have not read this book and you're just like interested in our thoughts and you're not going to read it. So the ninth house basically lost 200 children around the time when Harrow was born. And no one really understands why. They say that it's because of a pandemic, right? It was a illness that killed all of the children. And Harrow, though, lived, and so did Gideon. And so there's this mystery around why did they live? And then also it's important to know that Harrow's parents died. I don't know how many years ago when the book starts, but
Mm-hmm.
basically, do I have this right, Amanda? Is that she has been playing with their bones and keeping them alive
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
making it look like they're still alive so
Mm-hmm.
that she doesn't lose power or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when I found that, I was like, is that real? Is that really what's happening?
Yeah, yeah. Her parents took their own lives, and
Yes.
she knows that it would create a horrible amount of instability in the ninth house if people knew that their
Yeah.
leaders were dead. So she's been kind of animating their corpses essentially to make
Yeah.
people think they're still alive.
And then basically keeps them really isolated and just
Mm-hmm.
has them come out for very specific reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that's wild. Necromancy.
It's
But
necromancy.
yep. So Gideon does not know what really happened, but Harrow, we find out, does.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some people, I don't remember what house it was, but they're like, Gideon, why, you haven't thought about why this happened and like why you were the only one alive. And so basically, that leads to Gideon asking questions about what happened and pondering, like, well, what the hell happened? And Harrow eventually tells Gideon, and basically what happened was the parents
Yeah.
basically they sucked the lives of all of these 200 children,
Mm-hmm.
killed them, and
Mm-hmm.
put them essentially into Harrow because they wanted a necromancer child.
Mm-hmm.
And this was even before Harrow was born. This was in order to conceive Harrow.
Mm-hmm.
They sucked the life of 200 children and killed them and made Harrow.
Mm-hmm.
And so Harrow knew this. And the reason why she is so mean and icky to Gideon and why they have
Mm-hmm.
such a horrible relationship up to a certain point is that she knows, or do you remember? It was like the parents were upset at Gideon because she was a reminder that they did this or something like that.
I mean,
Because
Gideon
Gideon
told,
survived.
yes, but Gideon basically, Harrow's mad at Gideon because Gideon ratted her out to her parents that she went into the locked tomb and she wasn't supposed to. And
Oh
that was
yeah,
the
and that
reason
was
why,
when
and
she
then
was
that was the
8.
reason why Harrow's parents took their own lives. And so Harrow has a lot of hate for Gideon. from the
But what
beginning.
happened in the locked tomb again? Did she
I
find out this is
yeah,
how she found out the
sh-
truth?
she she found out who was in the locked tomb. It's like this little girl who's going to be the downfall of the emperor.
Oh, which was Gideon.
No,
Who is it? Who's in the
we don't
tomb?
know.
Oh my God. See, so this is the other thing that I did not like
So
about the
Kelsey's
book.
still very confused, y'all.
Yes, this book is a project, like a
It
freaking
is.
project.
It
I
is.
remember, so I did post a video about this where I was like, oh my God, I don't want to read this book. And I was like, maybe a fourth of the way through,
Mm-hmm.
and I was not understanding anything. And
Mm-hmm.
so one person, well, multiple people was like, listen to the audiobook. And I was like, already doing that. And then one person gave good advice, I thought, which was I stopped trying to understand everything and
Yeah.
just went with what I did understand and
Mm-hmm.
kept reading.
Yeah.
And then she said, or he, I don't know who it was on TikTok, they said then they read the next book, but then went back to the first book and read the first book again. And
Mm-hmm.
then that's when things made sense. And I was like, oh God, this is
Yeah,
a
this
freaking project.
this is definitely a book that would make more sense, I think, on a reread for sure, which
Yeah.
which I haven't done. But I did the same thing. I think in the first half of the book, because it's a lot of information, you are learning a lot about how this world works and how everyone fits into it in their different
Yeah.
roles. And I think if you spend too much time trying to sort it all out, you're one, not going to enjoy the book, and two, a
Yeah.
lot of it, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but you can still enjoy the book without having like this deep knowledge of all of these things and
Yeah.
understanding. You really can, especially because once they get to the first house and they start going through the trials and like going, unlocking doors and meeting other people,
Yeah.
like that part I found quite enjoyable and easy to understand. And it's very fast paced.
I don't understand how Harrow unlocked the doors and things, but
Mm-hmm.
I understood she was moving through like this,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, escape room essentially.
I was actually going to say, I think Kelsey will like this part because they're basically in a giant escape room for like
Yeah. Yeah. And people are getting murdered
Yes,
and like,
exactly. That's essentially
uh,
it. And like trying to solve these puzzles to open more
yes.
doors to get more information. So I was like,
Yeah.
Kelsey will probably like this part of the book, I hope. Because we both love escape rooms. So
I do really love escape rooms, but yeah, so no, there's a lot I still don't understand. And
yeah.
like this tomb thing and how it, I don't know. But the parents killed themselves because, do you understand why?
So they killed themselves because their one job was to keep the locked tomb locked and not let that information out. They failed in their duties because Harrow got in there. Again, and Gideon told them this because she never liked Harrow and wanted to get in trouble. And so, like, once they realized they had kind of failed in the one thing that they were supposed to do, they took their own lives. So, again, just for a bit of context, there were 8 houses. The ninth house was created because they were meant to go to this planet essentially, get this enemy of the emperor locked away in a tomb, and then they were all supposed to die, and that was supposed to be the end of it. But what they
Mm,
did, unbeknownst to the other houses, is they actually ended up like living,
creating.
having kids, and kind of creating this ninth house that wasn't supposed to be a ninth house.
Mm,
And so yeah, they took their own lives because that was the thing that they were supposed to do, protect locked tomb, keep it locked, and they didn't, and they had some feelings about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed by shame and fear that their failure would lead to the apocalypse,
Yeah.
they took their own lives,
Yeah.
along with their cavalier, which is why Harrowhark needed
A cavalier.
Gideon.
Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
she didn't have one. And
Are
the
there?
other thing go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just gonna say the other thing we haven't talked about, which is actually important. So Gideon is not like of the ninth house. We don't
Yeah. So
really
that's
know Gideon's origins. We know that her mother came to the ninth house with Gideon in an incubation tube. And the last thing that Gideon remembers, or people who got Gideon remember, is like this woman saying Gideon multiple times, which is how she got her name. So she's not
yes.
really an official member of this ninth house. And
Ninth
so she's
house.
kind of a, a servant almost. She's definitely like an oppressed member of this
Yes.
group. And it's why at the beginning of the novel, she's trying to escape, right? She wants her
Mm-hmm.
freedom because she's kind of
Mm-hmm.
bound to this house and she hates it there. So
Mm-hmm.
we didn't really talk about that, but she isn't just another member, like official member of the Ninth House that Harrow's like, yes, come be my cavalier, which is similar to the other houses because,
Right.
some of the other pairings, heir and cavalier in the other homes, like they're, their husband and wife are like they're married couples, like they're
Twins, right?
twins. So, they're all kind of official members of their house, whereas Gideon
Yeah.
and Harrow don't have that
Mm-hmm.
dynamic. Like Gideon's very much Harrow's subordinate in like all the ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just wanted to clarify.
Also, do we know how many people are in the ninth?
In total, like all the adults that are still living
Like,
after the children died.
but did all of their children die, or was it like, just 200 of their children, and then everybody else is still alive? Do you know what I mean?
I think all of its children died.
Okay.
Like the
So
ninth
the
at this
whole
point, when the book starts, ninth house is dying. Like all of the kids have
got it.
died. They're not reproducing anymore.
Yeah,
And so it's officially in decline.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay. See, that point would not have known. One of the other things that confused me was all of the nicknames
Oh God, yeah.
that Harrow Hark, and I think Gideon only has two, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's Gideon and then Griddle. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what the fuck is Griddle? And then Harrow, oh my God, Harrow, Row, Hark. What do they call her? The Reverent daughter as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. I was like, who are these people? And I didn't understand that her last name was, what did you say?
Non-adjustments.
Nonagesimus, because they also just call her that as well. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that was her last name. Oh, and Nav for Gideon. I didn't know that
Yeah.
was Gideon's last name either. So it was Gideon,
Oh,
Nav, and
yeah.
Griddle. And
Mm-hmm.
also, where does Griddle come from?
I don't know. It
There's
kind of
so
reminds me
many
of like
options for them. And I'm like,
Russian
what
literature
the
where
fuck?
every character has 8 different names and you're like, who am I reading about?
Yes. Oh my God. I don't know. It's
Hmm.
insane.
Yeah.
So that threw me
Hmm.
for like 3/4 of the book.
Hmm.
It was a lot.
It is a lot of information to keep track of, which again is why I'm so surprised that you were able to do this book as an audiobook because as I was reading, I was constantly going back to the list of houses and characters and going back a couple of pages to reference whatever, like this particular term. And obviously you can't do that with an audiobook. So I don't know how you did that.
I also had the book. So like I had it as well. So I would able to go back to it or reference it.
Okay.
But this is like basically this is the map of the world. And I was just like, why does Amanda like this book? Because there's so much
I
intense
know.
like work you have to put
I
in for
know.
this
I know.
freaking book. And
I
I was
know.
like, really?
And
Amanda,
honestly, like
really?
that is the reason why this book isn't getting a rave, like I said, 5 out of 5 for
Yeah.
me, because that is what I don't like about fantasy. I don't like when there's all of this front loading. And like I mentioned with Legendborn, where I feel like I need to go and take a course to understand all of the inner workings of this world and the magic systems and the characters before I even begin the story. Like it's quite
Oh my
exhaustive.
God.
Because I truly did not start to enjoy myself in this book until the second half. I didn't. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I have go
This
ahead.
book is way more intense than any of the books I've had you read, which solidifies the fact that you are going to read When the Moon Hatched.
Okay.
Because you made me read this book.
Okay. But
And that was the book that I had to read twice, remember?
I will, oh, yes, I remember. I will also say the reason why is because like you also have me mostly read romantasy, and romantasy leans more into the romance
Uh-huh.
side of it versus fantasy. Cause like real fantasy is like this. And that's why I don't read it, because it is like, yes, like here are 3 pages of maps
Yeah.
and here are the 8 different houses or whatever, and all of their many characters and their different names and how they wield their magic, which I don't enjoy because I'm like, this feels like homework and I don't want to have to think this hard, or at least in this way. Because I feel like I
Yes.
think when I read, I don't want to think in this
Well,
way when
yeah.
I'm reading. But I think I know that this book really hit home for me when I had such a strong reaction to the ending. Like that was a punch to the gut. And I was destroyed. I was utterly destroyed by the end of this book, not the epilogue, the actual, like the end. And for those of you who didn't read the book, I know Kelsey mentioned this in the summary, but
Yes.
yeah, Gideon sacrifices her life so that Harrow can live. And I think up until the very end, I was like, no, it's gonna work out. Like she's gonna find a way to like not have to. I'm like, they just finally came together and realized that they care about each other and have a good relationship. There's no way Gideon's gone forever. And who knows? Like I haven't read any of the other books in the series, and technically Gideon's soul is still alive inside of Harrow. So she does still exist within Harrow's body.
Yeah.
And Gideon's body goes missing at the end. So
Yeah,
there's also a sense of like mystery and like maybe there is a chance, right, that Gideon will reappear in future books. But I think I might have actually cried at the end. I'm trying to remember now because it was a while ago, but it really got me.
It did not get me. Because I was just I also don't feel strongly about their relationship because
I loved it.
It's almost like a really awful abusive relationship actually. So I didn't feel like drawn to it, which is why I think it leans towards dark romance, which some people really love, you know?
Yeah.
But
I could see that, I guess. Yeah.
Harrow keeps Gideon trapped, treats her like shit, and then
sucks her life force when she needs to.
Yes. And Gideon is just like, yeah, I'm your servant. Like all you have to do is ask me.
But okay, yes. But I think the reason why it didn't feel as ick as some other dark romance is because Gideon is not afraid to shoot off at the mouth and do what she wants when she can, right? She's not just this submissive whimpering, like, okay, like she holds her own. And so for me, I think that helped it to feel a little less like, yes, there's a power dynamic there where Harrow holds the majority of the power, but also Gideon is the fighter. Like Gideon is the one who actually has this kind of physical prowess in a way that Harrow does. Like Harrow can fight, but
which I find so funny is that comparison between the necromancers and the cavaliers is that like it's said multiple times throughout the book is that the necromancers have noodles for arms because they don't use their muscles as much because they're using their brain to control the bones, right? And the skeleton
ghosts and whatever.
But then, of course, the Cavaliers have to be strong. And while Gideon she prefers like the long blade or something. But then,
her sword instead of the rapier or whatever.
Cavaliers have like smaller swords. Like I don't know. There's something there that.
She had to learn before Harrow and Gideon left to go to the trials at the first house. She had to train for 3 months with the smaller sword. And I am not a sword person. I think it's a rapier. I think that's how you say it. She's used to using a much larger, like an actual sword, like a long sword or broadsword or something. So she had to reconfigure the fighting skills that she had. But yeah, she's a very skilled fighter. And so I think again, it did give a little bit more balance to the power dynamic. And so I think it made it a little, like I said, a little less uncomfortable for me. And yeah, again, I think Gideon's absolute disregard for like authority and all of the ways that she was able to without fully undoing their relationship as Cavalier and Necromancer. I don't know. I found it really entertaining and I liked her chutzpah. So
So I also found it entertaining and I just wanted to point that out. Like also it didn't feel like a great, grand, loving sacrifice because of their relationship. It just didn't,
I
didn't
feel
land for me that way.
See, for me, it had that much more depth and meaning to it because they had such a troubled, fractious relationship. And so for them to work their way through all of that and get to a point where she's literally willing to die for this other woman, I think it held a lot more weight than if they were like, oh my gosh, you're the greatest ever, like the entire book. And we have like this loving, deep relationship. Like, that's also great. Love that. I also probably would have cried. But for me, it just had a different, it had a different weight to it because of the journey that they had to go through to get there. It was this very hard won or hard fought love. And I like really liked that.
I did also didn't feel the love, I guess,
Mm,
in the writing. And
mm.
so I just was less attached. And also
Yeah, go ahead.
the
Sorry, go ahead.
fact that Gideon died also went over my head at the end.
Oh,
I
you
was
didn't
like, oh,
realize
whatever.
she was.
And then I only realized it in the epilogue and I was like, oh, wait, what the fuck? And so I had no
Interesting.
emotional reaction because
Because you
of
weren't
that
sure what
as
happened.
well. I was like, Harrow was gonna die, but then Gideon's like, no, you can do that. I was like, okay, I don't know.
Okay, that's
The
valid.
whole ending.
I will go back though to the point about the relationship feeling, maybe they didn't care for each other because there was so much, but I think it kind of reminded me of
Oh God,
like,
what?
I don't know, like a middle school relationship where you really do like someone, but instead of saying nice things, you're always ridiculing them and I don't know, putting things in their locker. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's very,
Yes.
especially like a middle school boy. Like, he's not going to come out and be like, yeah, I like you. He's going to do all of these things to make your life miserable. So for me, even though they were treating each other horribly, I thought it was really clear that they had feelings for each other,
Uh,
especially because, and we didn't talk about this that much either, like, Gideon clearly has feelings for Dulcinea, or who we think
mm-hmm.
is Dulcinea, who's actually this other
Yeah.
person called Cytherea, I think is her name.
Yeah.
I think that's how you pronounce it. I have no idea because I did not listen to the audiobook.
How to say that name, but Dulcinea is right.
Okay. So she has feelings for Dulcinea, and it is very
Mm-hmm.
clear that Harrow does not like this. And
Yeah.
Harrow has feelings about Gideon having feels for another woman. So
Mm-hmm.
again, I think there's lots of indicators along the way that there's feelings brewing, there's tension, there's like some
Sure.
sexual tension again. Love a slow burn. I also like enemies to lovers, which is like both they're both in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I was here for it.
But nothing even happens with them. Like
Which
they
is
just
fine. I
like
don't need it.
kind of
I
accept.
don't need the
Like they don't even necessarily like, I don't know. Do they fully say that they have feelings for one another? They don't, right?
So there's one part in the
Totally
book. It's this really
tangent.
famous line that's very much associated with this book and this series, which is
Uh,
one flesh, one end. And I do they ever say that to each other? I feel like they do at the end, which is their
oh.
way of saying I love you, like you're it essentially. I thought they said that to each other because they found that statement in one of the locked rooms, right?
Oh,
And
wait. Yeah, but also at the end, I'm looking at one of the last pages, and
okay.
Harrow said, with some difficulty, I cannot conceive a universe without you in it. Yes, you can. It's just less great and less hot, said Gideon. And then,
Yes, I love
fuck
that
you,
line.
Nav. Harrow Hark, said Gideon the Ninth. Someday you'll die and get buried in the ground, and we can work this out then. Yeah, for now, I can't say you'll be fine. I can't say we did the right thing. I can't tell you shit. I'm basically a hallucination produced by your brain chemistry while coping with the massive trauma of splicing in my brain chemistry. Even if I wasn't, I don't know, Jack. Harrow, I never did, except for one thing.
Yeah. They're
Anyway.
basically, I can just see them like growing into these two crotchety old lesbians, who just rag on each other all the time, but love each
Oh
other
my
so
God.
much. You know what I mean? I really liked their relationship. And I liked that it wasn't just this, because, in a lot of the romantic novels that you had me read, like even in the
Yeah.
enemies to lovers one, like their banter is not like this.
No, absolutely
And
not.
I appreciated this level of angst and antagonism between the two of them. It just landed well for me. And I thought it was hilarious the lengths to which they were going to hide what they were actually feeling. And even when they are telling each other how they feel, it's still in this very kind of coded
I
way.
feel like this is I don't know. It seemed like Gideon was already inside Harrow
He was.
in this part. Is that
He
right?
was. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They're just funny. Like this line, it just says, Harrow said, I cannot do this. You already did it, said Gideon. It's done. You ate me and rebuilt me. We can't go home again. I can't bear it. Suck it down, said Gideon. You're already 200 dead daughters and sons of our house. What's one more? Like, God.
Exactly. Like I said, Gideon does not give a fuck. I keep on using the same word because it's so perfect. Like she's so irreverent. And
Mm-hmm.
I love, like, honestly, the reason why I like this book as much as I do is because of Gideon. I just think she's such a great character. I enjoyed spending time with her and walking through this crazy weird adventure with her and her sense of humor and her interactions with both Harrow and the other folks from the other houses. Like, that is what sold me on this book was Gideon. It wasn't like all of the other
Yeah.
extenuating circumstances. It wasn't even the world itself or all of the dense kind of content that pops up at different points. It was Gideon, and then it was their time in Canaan House and their trials and adventures. Like, you know me, love a good trial, love an escape room, love puzzles, love things getting uncovered. So it was a riotous good time. Yeah.
Well, I don't think I have much more to say on this.
All right.
I think we covered a lot.
We did. And as always, I'm sure things will come up when we get to our reviews as well.
Yes.
But since you are sort of a little bit on the fence about this book, maybe you didn't absolutely hate it, is this a book that you would recommend?
No.
Okay.
I was trying to think of like what audience I would recommend it to. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I would certainly recommend this to fans of fantasy. I think if you're a fantasy lover and you're someone, again, who enjoys one of the things you enjoy about fantasy, you know, are books that kind of do a lot with like world building and talking through the magic system and how it all works. If you like that aspect of fantasy, this book will be a breeze for you because you're really used to doing that in your normal course of reading. And you get like a really stellar main character, in my opinion. So I do think Gideon. I do think fans of fantasy would like this book. So I would recommend it to fantasy lovers. I think most of my friends are not fantasy lovers.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I would recommend it to anyone that I know personally. But if you're listening to this podcast and fantasy is your jam, I highly recommend that you check this book out for sure. And also this podcast episode will make so much more sense.
Yes,
you do. But yeah, let's get to our literally the best or literally the worst. I've got my 1-star reviews from Goodreads.
I have 1 star.
Sorry, I've got 5-star reviews.
I was like, Amanda, what?
I've got 5-star reviews from Goodreads. Kelsey's got 1 star. Stars. Yes, I actually have 5 stars. Good. I promise. I did it the right way this time. So that means Kelsey's going to start and I will go second. And there's a little bit of a surprise with my first one that I'll tell you when we get there.
Oh, okay.
That I think you'll find interesting.
My first one is the longest one. So Gideon the Ninth. This is from Matt's fantasy book. My disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. The world building is extremely shallow, which was especially frustrating because the foundation that is laid out at the beginning of the book had a lot of promise. I wanted to know about the world the characters were living on, why there are different schools of necromancy, the details of the ongoing war, and the reason for the collapsing empire. I got none of that and was rather quickly thrown into a game of Clue instead. Gideon herself is most certainly in my top 3 least favorite POV characters in fantasy that I've ever read. While she has a compelling backstory that gets revelations later in the book, her personality can be described as extremely edgy teenager. Everything she says is either sarcastic, full of contempt, trying to be too cool, get ready for plenty of uses of dope and other similar uses of complex vocabulary, or some combination of the above. So those were the 2 pieces that I took from Matt's.
Interesting. It sounds like based on this person's handle, like Matt's fantasy books, I think is what you said, and their first remark, both you and I felt like there was too much information already and he wanted more, right? He wanted even more of the, I guess, exposition and laying down the foundations for this world, which again, as a non-fantasy reader, was like, I was already overwhelmed. I think if they laid even more information on there, I would have been done and dusted from the first couple chapters. I also think this is a book or a series that those questions are annoyances that he had would be addressed in the second book if he stuck with it.
Because obviously Harrow's going to be working with the Emperor. So you're going to get more of a extended view.
We're going to like zoom out a little bit to see what's going on. And you know, I can understand his comments about Gideon, like it being like, okay, we get the snark. Like she's on all the time. She's on 100 all the time with the snark.
Yeah.
I just happen to really enjoy that, but I could see that being annoying
That was the only
else.
part I liked
Yeah,
about Gideon. I was just like, this is funny. It's making me laugh.
Exactly.
There was something else I wanted to say about this. Oh, I wasn't overwhelmed by the amount of information. It was the writing for me that I didn't like in the way that things were presented.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it was the writing style, not the content necessarily.
Style.
That was.
Yeah. I feel like,
Yeah,
okay.
that's fair.
Your
so
turn.
This is really interesting. So this first 5-star review is actually from an author, and it is an author that Kelsey knows and loves.
Ooh, who is it?
And it's someone we've read on this podcast as well. It is Rebecca Roanhorse, who is the author of Trail of Lightning that we read last fall. Yeah. And she loved this book. And this is what Rebecca Roanhorse had to say. Stunningly good, a brilliant and original mashup of genres. The story is brimming with memorable characters, acerbic dark humor, a unique magic system, space travel, decaying technology, and layers upon layers of mystery. It is the gothic space adventure I didn't know I needed. So if you don't take my word for it, take Rebecca Roanhorse's word for it.
Thanks,
I love her describing it as a gothic space adventure because, it is such a perfect way to summarize it. Yeah.
All right. This one comes from Jake Bishop. It's done. This is not terribly written, but I really, really did not like it. I have enjoyed reading textbooks more. My least favorite book of the year.
Oh, wow. Okay. The thing is, like, again, if he read the whole book, the second half of the book does not read like a textbook. The first half, maybe, but I don't get that from the second half. Anyhow. Okay. So this is my long one.
Okay.
And this is from Helen 2.0. 4.5 stars. The perfect book club pick. It's fast-paced and witty with sprinkles of mystery, atmospheric horror and body horror, a little bit of romance too. I had so many crackpot theories that I constructed and discarded while reading. In short, there was tons to talk through with my book club and we all loved it. The fast pace was a big plus for me since I get bored very easily. Gideon the Ninth gives you no time to breathe between events, ever. At the same time, the world and the magic system is actually quite complicated. This means that I was perpetually confused, but wildly entertained. The ensemble cast also had me perpetually just a little lost. There's a list of houses and characters in the front of the paperback copy, as well as a glossary and naming index in the back. Yes. I had to check both frequently because I constantly lost track of who was in which house doing what for whom. RIP to anyone listening to the audiobook who couldn't reference the supplementary guides. Tamsin Muir's narration style is pure genius. She is so effortlessly funny. The third person narration is sometimes very close to Gideon's thoughts and sometimes steps back to tease Gideon and give us a broader view of the story. The romance was gorgeous. It took me a while to warm up to Gideon and Harrow as a romantic pair because there was a clear power dynamic between them at first that made me a little uncomfortable. But Tamsin Muir does an absolutely incredible job at turning that dynamic on its head throughout the story, and I was 1,000% on board after that. Quote, "Strike me down. You've won. I've lived my whole wretched life at your mercy, yours alone. And God knows I deserve to die at your hand. You're my only friend. I am undone without you." Unquote.
Oh my God.
Wow. Why say I love you when you can say that? Can't wait to be just as confused and entertained by book 2. Like this, the reason why I included it, and I know it's long, is because I feel like she said my exact thoughts on this book so well, down to the, like, it was, what did she say? I was perpetually confused, but wildly entertained. Like that was my experience of this book. I was constantly referencing the glossaries and the index and all of that, and was often confused, but I still had a really great time. And again, I love their romance and I love that quote. So
the last quote that you shared where Gideon's like, "You're my only friend." Well, yeah, because you're a freaking prisoner of the ninth house, essentially. Like you didn't have opportunity to make friends.
She made some friends sort of when she got to Canaan House.
Oh my God. Yeah. Also, Benito needed to come say hi.
Hi, Benito. I love I can just like see his eyes.
It's just like, say hi.
Hi, Benito. Like, he's the cutest. our little midnight doggo.
I know you can barely see
He
him.
just blends in. It's great.
Okay. My next review comes from Lena. This is the story of upper-class teenagers in a haunted house and the poor bastards that have to service them. It's told from the point of view of an abused servant who vacillates between wrath and slavish hope for appreciation. It was depressing. It was an unlabeled YA. It was wall-to-wall teenagers. I want my time back.
It's interesting because I did not think of this book as YA ever, which is interesting because I mean Gideon does act like a teenager.
Yes.
But I would have never classified it that way. But
I'm curious if any of my students have ever read this book.
Yeah. I could certainly see my students having read it for sure. But I just
mine are middle schoolers only,
that's true. I could see my high schoolers having read it, but
I don't know.
I did like her description of it as, what is it, a haunted house full of upper class teenagers?
Yes.
I mean, she's not wrong, or they're not wrong. I don't know their gender, but they're not wrong. Okay. Next one.
Okay.
This is from A Foray in Fantasy. What was that ending? With like 8 question marks. The first sci-fi book I have ever enjoyed. Celebration emoji. This is how you do enemies to lovers. And they have a clap emoji after every word. The relationships were just so good. The middle 50% was absolute perfection. Gideon is probably one of my new favorite characters. The last 25% was just crazy and maybe a little too rushed. All of the characters were so complex, but they all felt alive or undead. Gideon's humor is absolutely hilarious, but I apparently missed half of the references. I need more Gideon/Harrow. The next book better give it to me. And then it says, first reread notes. Loved it even more. There were so many bits of foreshadowing that I missed the first time around. Also solidified that I am an Ianthe simp. So there's that.
Ianthe. Oh my God.
That we didn't really talk about.
Yeah. The various characters. I don't even, what house was she from?
I don't know off the top of my head, to be perfectly honest. I don't have the reference in front of me to know.
I don't know like what she's in the third house.
Okay.
Heir to the house of the third, Princess of Ida.
Yeah. Because she's kind of a badass.
Yeah. I don't really know. I don't remember anything about her. Oh, in the back of the book, it gives you some descriptors of the houses. Oh, yeah. Okay. Ianthe is 21.
Yeah, because I was going to say they're not all teenagers, which is, again, why I didn't think.
But they are young.
They are. My God. Well, there's also a married couple, you know.
There's a 13-year-old that was there.
Yeah, it's the boy, right?
Aaron.
Yeah.
27, 22.
Yeah,
they're pretty young.
Yeah, but they're not 23. All teenagers.
Wait, how old is Harrow and?
I would say they're probably like late teens, early 20s.
Anyway, this is my final 1-star review from Kiki. I really wanted to like this book, but after Muir's 500th loving description of a white character's eyes, their hair, the sweat at the hairline ad nauseum, but the 2 maybe black, it's not clear beyond them being intensely dark. Members of the second house were walking line sketches. This book could be nothing else but regret for me. White authors, if this is the best you can do, please feel free to leave us out of your little goth games. Thanks.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't say that this fantasy book is necessarily very diverse or inclusive.
Definitely not. Yeah.
You know, I don't know, maybe this is a controversial thing to say because we've talked a lot about this. You know, of course, as a woman of color, I am here for diverse stories and including diverse characters from a variety of backgrounds, a variety of different identities. At the same time, I don't think that there's anything wrong with having a story that has white characters in it, you know, like, I don't know.
But that's exactly what that person was saying, though, was that if you can't include us in a meaningful way, just don't.
Yeah, because I guess if she's saying that the 2 I honestly don't remember the descriptions of those two characters. If it was just like, oh, like they're tan or whatever it was. But yes, if you are going to include them, yes, make sure that they're on equal footing with all the other characters and are given the same attention and that they're fully fleshed out characters. Absolutely agree. And then at the same time, if it is just a book full of white characters, then whatever, like that is some people's experiences, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se. Yeah. And I also think if that is your only comment about the book itself, like if it actually is a well-written story that is compelling and has important things to say and has good themes, et cetera, then it seems, I don't know, maybe a little narrow-minded to only focus on one aspect and then say that the book is a complete wash because of that. I don't know. I have to think about that some more, but that's just like my initial reaction.
I wonder if that was just one thing that they put on paper, right? Like,
and if there were other things that they didn't like.
Yeah,
perhaps. Okay, but let's end on a positive note. And so this last one is from Brittany Christine. Okay, I'm done. We did it. First, let me say, having flown through the last 200 pages, my struggle in the first 200 was warranted. It takes a lot of work and searching for context and world building before you finally realize none of it matters. I understand much better why no one has been able to summarize this book, because to summarize it at all is to spoil it. What I will say is that if you DNF in the first 150 pages, this is a 1-star book. If you get to 250 pages, it's a 3-star book. And if you do finish, if it is not exactly a 5, it'll stick with you for the rest of your life. Now, a question to the author. Are you okay? Edit. Upon reread, this is my favorite book of all time. It's meant to be reread. There was so much to be gained. I actually fully agree with that. I think if I had taken the time, I'm not a rereader, but I feel like if I had taken the time to reread it, knowing what I knew by the end, I would have had a much better overall reading experience and would have picked up on a lot more things, because this book has a lot happening.
So the question is, knowing that, would you have read it, knowing you would have to read it twice to really understand the depths of this world?
Yeah, I think so. Because I still got a lot out of it even on my first read through and enjoyed it a lot. Like I said, with that original person, like I was perpetually confused and wildly entertained, and I am okay with that reading experience. Absolutely okay with it. So yeah, again, listeners, as always, if you've read this book and loved it or hated it, let us know. We'll have our voting video out on our socials on Thursday, and you can let us know if this book was a lit it or quit it for you. So be sure to chime in. We love getting those comments and seeing where folks land. And we didn't say this at the beginning of the podcast episode, and I'll have Kelsey do socials in a second, but don't forget to rate and review our podcast. I forgot to put that little blurb in there.
Do it. 2 seconds. And you can come hang out with us on social media. We are very active on TikTok, especially at Live Vibes Only Podcast, and on Instagram at Live Vibes Only _podcast. And if you are so inclined to see Benito in the flesh,
in the fur. Benito in the fur.
Then come hang out with us on YouTube, where we're also Live Vibes Only Podcast. So lots of places to enjoy our content and enjoy the books we're reading. And we'll see you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye.